Character Chima, who is an awkward virgin who wishes to lose his virginity before graduating. He is currently at a party with his two childhood friends, Hugo and Ruben, who are attempting, but failing, to impress any girls. After the party, the three friends talk about the most anticipated gathering, the Christmas party. However, Hugo and Ruben are worried about Chima because it will be hard for him to find a date. It appears that his best friends have already lost their virginities, but Chima has not been in any kind of relationship until now. The next morning, Chima's mother, Gloria, informs him of Uncle Jamie's arrival, and as usual, asks him to sleep on the couch and share the restroom with his uncle. Uncle Jamie seems to visit them every 4 months for 2 weeks. Hearing this, Chima refuses, but his mother reminds him that it was his father's dying wish for his best friend to look after them. In the next scene, we see the three childhood friends on their way to their high school, Horizon Educational Institute. As they enter, they discuss their chances with the girls in the upcoming senior years. Chima has his sights set on a classmate named Eli, but his friends joke that she is practically his cousin and is out of his league anyway. Even Chima's teachers are aware of his lousy reputation and label him as a softie who is easily weakened and persuaded. And he's a proper pushover, accepting his usual cat litter cleaning responsibilities without hesitation. After class, another teacher assigns him with one more task. She introduces him to a new student named Claudia Galina, who has transferred from Mexico, and tells him to show her around the school. Chima falls madly in love with her at first sight and happily agrees to fulfill all of her wishes. Furthermore, he also offers to drive her there and back, despite the fact that he does not own a car. He appears to be obsessed with the newcomer and is willing to do whatever she requests. Later, Chima tries hard to convince his mother to lend him her car, but she declines. A short time later, Uncle Jamie arrives with gifts for Gloria, Chima, and his sister, Begona. Just then, Chima learns that Jamie has bought an old truck, so he starts pampering his uncle in the hopes of obtaining his truck. However, Jamie senses his anxiety and inquires about the matter. Chima then tells him about Claudia, expressing that if he doesn't have a car, the popular guys will win her over, causing him to miss the Christmas party. Hearing this, Jamie hands him the keys to his truck and teaches him a trick for checking whether the girl is truly interested in him or not. He advises him to turn around as he walks away because if she looks back at him, it means she's interested. The next morning, Chima wakes up and drives to Claudia's place, which is far enough. On his way, he gets stuck in traffic several times, which frustrates him. But his frustration is quickly relieved when Claudia kisses him on the cheek. Upon reaching school, everyone is staring at them, wondering who the beautiful girl is. The three best friends discuss Claudia in the class. A few moments later, 2 girls enter the classroom and announce that their graduation trip will be to Cancun. After class, Eli approaches Chima and they talk about some music bands. He impresses her by showing her a poster of the Smiths with Morrissey's autograph. She then asks if he wants to apply in a music competition as a couple with her, to which he agrees. While they're conversing, Claudia walks in and takes him away, and Eli is somewhat sad seeing this. Following this, Chima drives Claudia home, and as she's leaving, he waits to see if she turns around. To his surprise, she turns around, but at the same time, he is hit by a cycle. On the same night, he's touching himself when Uncle Jamie walks in, creating an awkward situation for both. Days pass and Chima's daily routine of waking up early, picking Claudia up from school, and being with her all the time continues. He also joins her in yoga as well as pole dancing classes, which aren't cheap. One day, Chima approaches Claudia, who's with her classmates. One of her classmates, named Sebas, invites Chima to a party at his place, along with several other friends. Later, we see Chima getting ready for the party, and before leaving, he's approached by Uncle Jamie. He hands him some adult magazines and sex toys and instructs him to use these modern tools to satisfy himself. In addition, he warns him not to let Claudia hug him, because if she does, he will be nothing more than her reliable friend. After listening to him, Chima claims that they are much more than friends. At the party, Claudia starts dancing closely with Sebas and eventually gets drunk, making Chima jealous. Seeing this, Ruben and Hugo make fun of him, claiming that she's just his friend. After this, he goes to Sebas and invites him to a private conversation. In order to keep him away from Claudia, he fakes that she is a hyper-lesbian, leaving Sebas in second thought. Afterwards, he goes to a drunk Claudia who tells him about Sebas's invitation to spend the night at his place, making him even more concerned. As a result, he books a hotel room and takes her there. The following morning, Claudia wakes up and asks why he brought her here despite her plans with Sebas. Chima learns that she has no recollection of the previous night, so he takes advantage of this by pretending that she was the one who invited him to spend the night with her. He also tries to persuade her to hang out with boys like himself rather than Sebas. Hearing all this, Claudia suddenly hugs him and refers to him as her best friend. Later at home, Chima asks his mother about what she would do if Jamie had feelings for her. At first, she's shocked to hear this, but soon she realizes that her son needs some guidance in dealing with the girls. She then inquires about his girlfriend, and he begins to tell her about Claudia. At the same time, Begona walks in and, having overheard their conversation, she claims him to be Claudia's dog. This makes Chima wonder if he is truly just an exclusive human pet of a spectacular girl, and if he will never have any contact or sexual attraction with the girl of his dreams. Later, Chima visits a music store, where he meets Eli and apologizes for not showing up despite promising her. Initially, she's mad at him, but she soon forgives him and invites him to a movie. In the following scene, Chima confronts Claudia and asks if she is truly interested in him. Much to his surprise, she agrees to be his date and accompany him to the Christmas party. It turns out that she was dying to go with Sebas, but she feels like he's ignoring her. So she has now decided to go with her second option, Chima. The next day, Chima informs Hugo of the news about his date, but his friend remains skeptical. Meanwhile, Claudia is with her friends who are talking about boys. During this, Claudia reveals that she's taking Chima as her date, which surprises the other two. They then refer to Chima as her human dog, warning her not to date a dog. In order to persuade her, they also introduce her to their human dogs and show her how to treat them. Now that she's inspired by her friends, she walks into Sebas's car and seductively invites him to her place. On the other hand, Chima is trying to reach out to her, but in vain. Concerned, he drives to her place and climbs into her room, only to discover her having an intimate moment with Sebas in the bathroom. This breaks his heart, and he returns home heartbroken. After some time, he receives a phone call from Claudia, who admits she couldn't resist going to the Christmas party with Sebas. She apologizes to him and promises to help him find a date. However, Chima tells her not to, saying he wants to ask Eli out. The next day, he walks over to Eli and congratulates her on her new music setup. He hesitantly asks if she would mind being his date, to which she happily agrees. On the Christmas party day, Chima gets ready by putting on his father's suit. Before leaving, Uncle Jamie approaches him and encourages him to rock every moment. Chima is moved by his uncle's constant presence for him, so he thanks him and the two share an emotional hug. Soon after, Hugo and Ruben arrive to pick him up, and the three friends head to the Christmas party with their dates. At the party, Chima and Eli appear to be enjoying each other's company. They dance together, and as the moment heats up, they are about to kiss, but a jealous Claudia intervenes. She requests a private conversation with him and takes him away. Chima expresses his anger on Claudia for dumping him for someone else, but the latter laughs in his face when Chima says that he thought they had a chance as a couple. She's just been using Chima as a lapdog, keeping him to do whatever she wishes. Unfortunately, Eli overhears their conversation and concludes that she's nothing more than a consolation prize for him. He tries to explain everything to her, but she is already heartbroken, so she storms off, calling him worst guy on the planet. Not long after, he has a fight with his best friends who support Eli, With his unhealthy infatuation with Claudia, he has alienated his closest friends and has upset his potential love interest, Eli. In his depression, he gets drunk, and to make matters worse, he offends his uncle with some harsh truths. He mentions his uncle's plan to be with his mother, but also claims that his mother is uninterested in him because he's merely his mother's lapdog. It's true that Jamie would go to any length for Gloria, but the argument cuts deep, and the uncle leaves for good. After all this, Chima regrets everything he's done and wishes to right all his wrongs. The bumbling teen tries to mend things with Eli, but she refuses to accept his apology and rejects all of Chima's subsequent gifts. He also tries to reconnect with his best friends, but in vain. In the midst of all this, Chima applies to university, with engineering as his top choice. He gets a job in order to afford the graduation trip to Cancun, having spent all of his savings on Claudia. Chima also emails his uncle, profusely apologizing, and invites him to his graduation ceremony. On the day of his graduation, Chima presents Eli with a sentimental vinyl and his most treasured item, a precious poster from his father. Eli is taken aback by the gifts and heads over to thank him. On the school grounds, Chima witnesses the other school lapdogs humiliating themselves in obedience to their master's orders. He decides to take a stand and delivers a speech in front of the entire class. Chima admits that chasing after the hot popular girl cost him his friends and his dream girl, so this manipulation must end now. After hearing his inspiring speech, all of the students, including his best friends and Eli, applaud for him. Later, Claudia tries to reconcile with Chima, telling him that she's ended her relationship with Sebas. However, as expected, he rejects her and reunites with his friends instead. Shortly after, the graduation ceremony begins. Uncle Jamie arrives just in time to cheer Chima up, and they all graduate in style. Following this, Eli hugs Chima, forgiving him for the past. Chima then informs his family that he's decided to study music at university rather than engineering. At the same time, the uncle also informs the family that he'll be relocating closer to them in order to prioritize them over others. In the final scene, we see the students flying to Cancun for their graduation trip, and while on the plane, Eli walks down the aisle looking at the other students who are happily socializing together. She then heads to the first-class washroom where she meets Chima. The two lovebirds start making out in the claustrophobic toilet, and Chima finally loses his virginity. Finally, Chima has now transformed from a pushover, a human pet, to a more confident and outgoing dog he always aspired to be.